National Space Day Quiz. When is National Space Day celebrated in India? August 23. Who declared 23rd August as National Space Day in India? PM Narendra Modi. In which year did PM Narendra Modi declared August 23 as National Space Day? 2023. National Space Day in India commemorates the successful lunar landing of which mission? Chandrayaan 3. What was the theme of National Space Day of India 2025? Aryabhatta to Gaganyaan, Ancient Wisdom to Infinite Possibilities. ISRO. Which Indian organization is primarily responsible for space research and exploration? ISRO. What does ISRO stand for? Indian Space Research Organization. When was ISRO established? August 15, 1969. Who is known as the founder of ISRO? Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Who is the current chairman of ISRO? Dr. V. Narayanan. Who was the ISRO chairman before Dr. V. Narayanan? Dr. S. Somanath. Where is the headquarters of ISRO located? Bangalore, Karnataka. Chandrayaan 1. What was the name of India's first mission to the moon? Chandrayaan 1. When was Chandrayaan 1 launched? 22 October 2008. Which launch vehicle was used to launch Chandrayaan 1? PSLV C-11, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle C-11. From which launch center was Chandrayaan 1 launched? Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Which organization conducted the Chandrayaan 1 mission? ISRO. What was one of the most important discoveries of Chandrayaan 1? Evidence of water molecules, water-related signatures on the moon. Which instrument played an important role in detecting water-related signatures on the moon? Moon Mineralogy Mapper. Which space agency developed the Moon Mineralogy Mapper? NASA. What was the main objective of Chandrayaan 1? To study and map the moon's surface and investigate its mineral and chemical composition. Chandrayaan 2. What was the name of India's second mission to the moon? Chandrayaan 2. When was Chandrayaan 2 launched? 22 July 2019. Which launch vehicle launched Chandrayaan 2? GSLV Mk 3rd M1. Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark 3rd M1. What were the three major components of Chandrayaan 2? Orbiter, lander and rover. What was the name of the Chandrayaan 2 lander? Vikram. What was the name of the Chandrayaan 2 rover? Pragyan. What was the main objective of Chandrayaan 2? To study the moon's south polar region and demonstrate soft landing and rover technologies. On which date did Chandrayaan 2 attempt to land on the moon? 7 September 2019. What happened to the Vikram lander during the Chandrayaan 2 landing attempt? The Vikram lander lost communication with ISRO during its descent and could not achieve a successful soft landing on the moon. What was the name given to the Chandrayaan 2 impact site? Tiranga Point. Did the Chandrayaan 2 mission completely fail? No, the orbital continued to function successfully and carried out valuable scientific observations. What important discovery was made by the Chandrayaan 2 orbiter regarding lunar water? It provided detailed observations and evidence related to water and hydroxyl on the moon. Which instrument aboard Chandrayaan 2 is used for radar observations of the lunar surface? Dual frequency synthetic aperture radar. Chandrayaan 3. What was the name of India's third mission to the moon? Chandrayaan 3. When was Chandrayaan 3 launched? 14 July 2023. Which launch vehicle was used for Chandrayaan 3? LVM-3 M4 Launch Vehicle Mark 3 M4. What were the main components of Chandrayaan 3? Propulsion module, lander and rover. What was the name of the Chandrayaan 3 lander? Vikram. What was the name of the Chandrayaan 3 rover? Pragyan. On which date did Chandrayaan 3 successfully land on the moon? August 23, 2023. Where did Chandrayaan 3 land on the moon? In the southern polar region of the moon. What name was given to the Chandrayaan 3 landing site? Shiv Shakti Point. What was the main objective of the Pragyan rover? To conduct scientific experiments and study the composition of the lunar surface near the landing site. What was the approximate distance travelled by the Pragyan rover on the lunar surface? 101.4 meters. What important measurement did the Chandrayaan 3 Vikram lander make on the moon? It measured the temperature profile of the lunar surface and near surface region. Which Chandrayaan mission made India the fourth country to achieve a soft landing on the moon? Chandrayaan 3. Which Chandrayaan mission made India the first country to successfully land near the moon's south polar region? Chandrayaan 3. Which organization conducted India's 3 Chandrayaan lunar missions? ISRO. From which space center were Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3 launched? Satish Dhawan Space Center. Where is Satish Dhawan Space Center situated? Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. Who was the chairman of ISRO at the time of the Chandrayaan 3 launch? S. Somanath. Mangalyaan. Which ISRO mission made India the first Asian country to reach Mars orbit? Mars Orbiter Mission, also known as Mangalyaan. What was India's first interplanetary mission? Mars Orbital Mission, Mangalyaan. When was Mangalyaan launched? 5 November 2013. Aditya L1. Which ISRO mission studied the Sun from the L1, Lagrange point 1? Aditya L1. When was Aditya L1 launched? 2 September 2023. What is the main purpose of Aditya L1? To study the Sun and solar phenomena. SpaDeX, India's space docking achievement. What does SpaDeX stand for? Space Docking Experiment. What was the main objective of the SpaDeX mission? To develop and demonstrate the technology needed to atomically find, connect, and separate two spacecraft in space. On which date did ISRO successfully dock the two SpaDeX satellites for the first time? 16 January 2025. What are the names of the two SpaDeX satellites? SDX-01 and XDX-02. Why is the SpaDeX achievement important for India's future space missions? Space docking technology is important for future missions involving space stations, human spaceflight, spacecraft servicing, and complex lunar missions. What additional capability did ISRO demonstrate in the SpaDeX mission after docking? In-space electrical power transfer between the two connected satellites. NISAR. What does NISAR stand for? NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. NISAR is a joint mission between ISRO and which organization? NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. What type of spacecraft is NISAR? An Earth Observation Radar satellite. When was NISAR launched? July 30, 2025. Which Indian launch vehicle launched NISAR? GSLV F-16, Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle F-16. What is one major purpose of NISAR? To monitor and study changes in the Earth's surface, including those caused by natural hazards such as earthquakes, volcanic activity, and landslides. Gaganyaan. What is the name of India's human spaceflight program? Gaganyaan. What is the primary objective of ISRO's Gaganyaan mission? To demonstrate India's capability to carry humans to low Earth orbit and safely return them to Earth. How many astronauts is the Gaganyaan mission designed to carry? 3 astronauts. What is the planned duration of the Gaganyaan crewed mission? About 3 days in orbit. Which rocket will be used for the Gaganyaan mission? Human-rated LVM-3. What important Gaganyaan test was successfully conducted on 10 April 2026? The second integrated airdrop test. What did IADT-02 test? It validated the parachute-based deceleration system of the crew module. How many parachutes were deployed during the IADT-02 test? 10 parachutes of 4 different types. Future missions. Which Chandrayaan mission is planned as India's lunar sample return mission? Chandrayaan 4. Which Japanese space agency is partnering with ISRO for LUPEX? JAXA, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. India is collaborating with which country on the LUPEX lunar mission? Japan. What is the planned focus of LUPEX? To explore water resources in the Moon's south polar region. Other important questions. Who became the first Indian to visit the International Space Station? Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla. Under which mission did Shubhanshu Shukla travel to the ISS? Axiom Mission 4. When was AX-04 launched? 25 June 2025. How long was Shubhanshu Shukla's historic ISS mission? 18 days. What was the first satellite launched by ISRO? Aryabhatta. In which year did India launch its first satellite Aryabhatta? 1975. Which country launched India's first satellite Aryabhatta? The Soviet Union. Aryabhatta was built by ISRO but launched by Soviet Union. Where are ISRO's launch vehicles primarily developed? Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Thiruvananthapuram. Which Indian launch vehicle is known as the workhorse of ISRO? PSLV, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. Which satellite launched by ISRO was India's first dedicated satellite for education? EduSat GSAT 3. What was the first geostationary satellite launched by ISRO? Apple Ariane Passenger Payload Experiment. When was Apple launched? 19 June 1981. Which was the first experimental satellite launch vehicle developed by ISRO that successfully placed a satellite into orbit? SLV 3 Satellite Launch Vehicle 3. Who was the project director of SLV 3? Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Which satellite navigation system developed by ISRO provides regional navigation services over India? NAVIC Navigation with Indian Constellation. What was the original name of ISRO's regional satellite navigation system, now known as NAVIC? IRNSS Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. What is India's planned space station called? Bharatiya Antariksh Station. What is the main purpose of a space station? To provide a platform for astronauts to live and conduct scientific research and experiments in space.